So to start my presentation, I'm going to begin with my NTAS standard number 1. I completed this standard during my fall semester of 2017 during my Introduction to Physical and Health Education for Teachers course. During this class, we as a group developed a website that also includes a lesson plan that parents can use as an informative resource. And this is our website. So the first page of our website is just kind of explaining our goals as teachers and during physical education classes as well as health classes. And it also tells us how we related it to NTAS standard number 1. Our lesson plan that we created an obstacle course for students that they'd be able to do, which covers social, linguistic, emotional, and physical, as well as cognitive areas. We covered cognitive because they had to think about where they had wanted to step before they actually did it. We covered physical because it was an obstacle course. We also put them in partners, so they had to communicate, which covers linguistic, and social because they had to work together. So during this, we covered a lot of developmental milestones. We needed to kind of figure out where the student was in physical development as well as cognitive development before we could create our lesson plan any further. So we did that by reviewing physical education standards and also researching developmental milestones. In our website, we also included a section on emotional development, which is very nice to have because a lot of parents struggle, as well as a lot of students struggle, how to have positive body image and also how to teach it. We need to encourage positive body image because our students have a hard time participating in gym class a lot of times because they're self-conscious, they don't want to try new things in fear of getting made fun of. So if we as educators and also as parents can help break down those mental blockades, our students will be a lot more receptive to physical activity and also live a healthier lifestyle. We have also included a couple different resources covering childhood obesity, as well as different parenting websites for children, men, and young women. We connected a lot of our websites towards theorists in the community, or theorist developments that can adapt to the community. We covered Maslow's hierarchy of needs, showing what a whole child needs to succeed. We also covered Vygotsky's zone of proximal development because students are actually able to learn a lot more from students that are more knowledgeable within this zone of proximal development. And we also covered Bronfenbrenner's ecological system, showing that every part of a child is affected by their environment, their school system, as well as their health. I learned from this assignment how hard it is to truly encompass a whole standard in just one artifact. So that's why we combined not only a lesson plan, but also a website that the community could use. And I found that a lot of resources are better than others. So when we were looking at resources, we wanted to make sure that there were strong, informative resources that parents could actually adapt into their lifestyles. I demonstrated my confidence through this standard by encompassing a lesson plan that covers a lot of developmental areas for students, linguistic, socially, just to kind of build that whole child, as well as continuous growth for the community through my website connections, positive body image, and resources. My second standard that I'm going to be covering today is actually NTAS standard number 2. This standard talks about the understanding of individual development as well as kind of making them grow together as a culture and including everyone in your classroom environment as well as in the world and holding everyone to just as high standards. So I actually did this artifact in my summer semester in my exceptional child class. For this artifact, I included a lot of letters and responses that we needed to do for parents. So these are just a couple of examples of how I believe that I understand person before language terms, as well as the process of IEP development in response to intervention. Scrolling. So we also wanted to involve what inclusivity looks like in classrooms. So I put together a slideshow of just children working together and how I can actually benefit from having an inclusive environment. And what I learned throughout this course is that children with special needs and also gifted and talented children need to be handled, those situations need to be handled a little bit differently when talking to parents or guardians. And I think that every child can fit into a classroom as long as we adapt our classroom to them. So for this standard, I plan to adapt involvement, so covering like different books, making sure that kids have the right resources that they need to be a part of my classroom. And I demonstrated my standard in this confidence. I demonstrated my confidence in this standard by proving that I can meet the needs of exceptional students and I can communicate with parents effectively through those letters that I have provided. The third standard that I'm going to be covering today is standard number 3. Third artifact I'm going to be covering today is standard number 3. I completed a literacy corner in my Literacy for Children class in my fall semester of 2017. And for this standard, teachers work to create an environment that can be individually collaborative, as well as also encourage social interaction and positive engagement, while still involving self-motivation. So this is the literacy corner that I created. It's very vague right now because with the system that I use, we had a limited amount of furniture that we could choose from. However, I decided to put the 2 flower pads so that children that wanted more individual learning could have those individual learning experiences, as well as the couches in this center area to involve community engagement so that students can work together on developing and encouraging their own literacy skills. I also went online and found a couple resources of classrooms that I could actually envision like having in my classroom, so they're a little bit more effective. So for example, this one has a lot more color to it. So that's kind of what I want to have in my classroom. From this experience of building this literacy corner, I realized how hard it's going to be to truly create a positive, self-motivating learning environment, because it's hard to self-motivate children without you motivating them yourself. So I think that if I were to have a literacy corner in my classroom, I would kind of set up a plan for them to want to continue to grow. So possibly by including books in my literacy corner that involve like different levels, and then test them on their abilities, whether they can pass that level to move on to the next, and whoever possibly completes the most levels, they can have like a special spot in the literacy corner. So they're motivating themselves because they're going to be rewarded by me, but they're still wanting to better themselves. Also, I believe that I encourage self-motivation or collaborative learning through my layout, and as well as individual learning through the layout as well. The 6th standard that I'm going to be covering today, it involves multiple ways of assessment. So I actually involved a video of my co-teaching that I did in my Intro to Education class in my fall semester of 2016. So I'm going to play a short clip of it.
It's gone. There you go.
I'm not going to play that right now.
Okay.
It's going away anyways. But this video involved me and another girl, one of my colleagues, actually trying to co-teach and explain APA format to our other students and our other colleagues. It was at the very beginning of the semester, so we ourselves didn't really understand the full, all-encompassed APA format. So I think that was one of my biggest struggles, was making sure I knew the content before I taught it to someone else. From this experience, I actually learned that teaching is really harder than it looks, because it was my first experience actually getting in front of the classroom and trying to be a leader of that class and make sure that I get my students from point A to point B. So I actually began to assess them because I gave them directions. It was not very clear, so I had to go back and reassess my directions that I gave them and change it so that they could understand, and then I observed them and kind of guided them a little bit more throughout the process. I demonstrated my confidence in this standard because I realized that my engagement and my direction of the students needed to be redone. So I gave them new instructions and I kind of guided them through the rest of the process. And I assessed them through where they were at the beginning to their final end product on their big piece of paper, what they thought IEP format was. The last artifact that I'm going to be covering today involves INTAS standard number 9. And this is a standard where a teacher undergoes ongoing professional development as well as an understanding of a diverse community and environment. So during my education classes here in my spring semester 2017, in my child and adolescent development class, we put together as a class an action research project that begins here and works clockwise to end here. So our action research project covered the topic of gender-neutral bathrooms in schools. For this project, we found the question what we wanted to cover, gender-neutral bathrooms. We asked people in the school system, parents, children, as well as teachers, what they thought it would be, and then we kind of developed our benefits and our drawbacks from those responses. So what I learned from this is identifying problems in society as well as in schools is a huge part of teaching, because you're going to have children that walk through your classroom and their problems from outside now become your problems in the classroom. And we want to make sure our students feel as accepted as possible in our classrooms. So if putting a gender-neutral bathroom in our classrooms is what we need to do, I believe that we should do it to make students feel more comfortable and more accepted into our classroom. A lot of parents that we talked to, they didn't really feel that way. They felt they were more concerned about their child in the school environment instead of the school as a whole. So, which kind of surprised us and took us back, because we walked into the project assuming that parents were going to be for accepting other children and other children's backgrounds. They use family bathrooms all the time, and those aren't like gender exclusive. Everyone can go in there. So it surprised us that parents were very against it, but it also kind of made us connect what realistic problems are going on in our community. So the demonstration of my confidence in this standard is that I realized that action research is a great way to continue ongoing professional development, because it's just a circle, it just repeats itself. So you develop a question, get your answers, find out how it affects your school, and just reassess it as time goes on. And that's something that I can implement into my classroom as well to make my students feel more welcome. And also, we talk to the community in diverse areas. So that's all I have.
Oh no. Oh, it's still going.